You cannot say that to me. So then, that is the point you start thinking. Why mother said so? What have I done? Now think on those lines. So you start moving again. It's a very thin road on which you have to walk. One side is the huge, big Gibraltar, rock of Gibraltar of your ego. The another side is a super ego. In between is a small discretion path going, on which you have to see both the sides. Whether you are hitting yourself with the rock of Gibraltar or falling into the valley of superego, you should see that you are using your discretion. So, another thing one has to remember, that whatever you were doing before realization is to go to extreme. For example, now you start some sort of a movement. You say we'll have classical things. All right. Then you go so classical that it becomes mechanical. Now you'll say give up. We'll start anti-culture. So you go to another side that you become primitive. Till you have reached the end of it and learnt a lesson of your life, you do not return. But in Sahaja Yoga, it's a very slippery road on which we are walking. And there you have to see that it's not your ego and it is not your superego. So discretion has to be used very much, and the balance in this movement, which we need not use otherwise. Till we are absolutely destroyed, we can go ahead with it before realization. But in Sahaja Yoga, as soon as you leave your discretion, you fall this side or that side. Now those people who are of high quality Sahaja Yogis take to discretion first. How far to go? Now for that, mother doesn't have to say, because you are the spirit. You yourself, you are the spirit. First of all, assume your position as a spirit, and then move with it, that you say discreetly how far to go, how far not to go. Now that is one of the things that you have to become thoughtless by becoming a forgiving person. Most of the thoughts will drop out once you become forgiving. But you cannot forgive some people, like you cannot forgive God, you cannot forgive mother. Certain things you cannot do. So the maryadas must be seen. Now in these boundaries, if you walk properly, you can go ahead. This is the thing which brings you vichara shaithilya, or you can call the mind becomes relaxed. Then you have to have vishaya shaithilya. Means your organs, sense organs, always react to things. Because you are human beings, you see, you are born like that. So whatever happens, you react. For example, you see a beautiful flower, you react to it. Some sort of a thought rises with it. Now, you must practice to see something without allowing any thought to rise. Then you start sucking through your spirit the beauty, the glory, the fragrance of a flower. Every flower is a poetry. But when you start thinking about it, then it becomes a dead thing. But you just try to enjoy. Now you are the people who are on this earth to enjoy yourself. Not to worry about it. Just enjoy. But if you are still used to, I must do this thing special, I am something special, Sir Yogi, I am a very highly revolves Sahajogi, then you are finished. Say, we are all going in a boat, enjoy the boat and also the waves. But somebody says, I'm a very special one, I'll try to jump down. Then you are back again into the same position. So one has to have an attitude of looking at things. Try to develop this habit of looking at things without thinking about it. Try to develop your mind on those lines that you do not react. Now that excitement business or all this sensationalization that is today's craze comes from the same, that your sense organs require a kind of sensation because they react. While we must have our sense organs which do not react, because they must only react to the spirit. So we have to develop a new type of sense organs or a new quality of sense organs who do not react to outside excitement. Now if you want Sahaja Yoga to be excitement, how can it be? I mean, it is just the opposite of it. So what you have to do is to see that your sex organs, say for example your eyes, they see something, then they react. Your ears, they hear something, they react. Somebody wants to talk and see the reaction. There are expectations. But because spirit is active itself, it acts itself. You have seen vibrations, don't speak, they act. It has the power to act. You need not react. If you can reduce the power of reaction, you rise much higher. This is a thing which one has to know when now we are celebrating his resurrection, because it is tapa. It is the penance of Christ. Christ came on this earth for penance. You know, in the Gayatri Mantra, there are 7 things they have said it. And at the point of Christ, it is tapa, is the penance. So you have to have so-called penance to achieve the joy. The penance is to pull back your sense organs inside yourself. As Krishna has said, that you have to pull back all your limbs of sense organs like a tortoise does. So the excitement that you require for your sense organs is no more needed, because your sense organs now are themselves the source of excitement. In the sense that they neutralize all the excitements. You go to that point from where it starts. A river starts with a very small little drop, and then it expands, 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 expands. You go to the source, absolutely to the central point. There you will find hardly even a drop falling out. Another good example would be a wheel has the central point. And the wheel moves all the time, but the central point has to be fixed. Otherwise, the wheel, with the wheel, that central point also moves, then the cart cannot move. Cart will also start rolling down. So the central point has to be fixed. Otherwise the wheel cannot move. So you go to that central point, and the movement is on the central point where there is no movement, in a way, because there's only ascent. There's no revolution. It doesn't revolve anymore. There's just ascent on the central point. I hope you try to understand that all the movements come out of ignorance. All the outer movements come because we are not yet on the central point. But that achievement is not difficult because you have jumped onto it. But you again come out, onto the periphery, onto the wheel. So how to keep there and to ascend in that line? Say for example there are wheels, like these wheels after wheels, but central point is fixed. Now every time you jump out, now how do you go back to the central point? Is by detachment, by tapa, by penance. Penance is to deny. It doesn't mean asceticism of outside, but asceticism of within. First of all, we must learn to give. Give to others. That also sometimes people find it difficult, I see. Even to give £1, they said, for Sahaja Yoga people find it difficult. I was amazed. So to give to others is going to be even worse. Try to give to others. Detachment. So one way is to have forgiveness. Then second is generosity. If you work for Sahaja, I haven't done anything so far. Not to react to it, what work you have done. Oh, it's pleasure, I did it. It's my pleasure, I did it. Just out of pleasure. Don't count it. I brought 4 flowers, she brought 2 flowers. I must be paid for 1.5 flower. All these calculations are on the periphery, outside, when you were not realized souls. Now, you just don't count anything else but your blessings. So you be generous. I've seen now people have different attachments, subtler ones, like attached to their own children. I've seen people. Once the children are born to Sahajogis, then the whole world becomes their children. You spoil them, you spoil yourself. You are just their trustees. But to you, it becomes a very big thing that you have produced a child. Anybody can produce, even a dog produces a child. What is so great? I mean the bitch. That's a funny word to say. So to create a child is not something great, but that you have a child in charge of you which has to work for God. You are just in charge. But to identify that this child is great, he's a very big realized soul and all that, you see, will blast your head completely, because it is subtler blasting. It's like hydrogen bomb. Ordinary bombs can destroy part of it, but these subtler bombs are even worse. And that will spoil the child, that will spoil also you very much in your ascent. So what you have to do is to see that if you have a child, all right, you are just in charge. as you are in charge of all the children of Sahajogis, not of your own. Be generous. Udara charitanam vasudhaiva kutumbakam. The person who is a generous person, for him the whole world is his family. So expand yourself. This is my family, this is my wife. How can I live without my wife or my husband, my child, This will not help you. This will tie you down completely. This is a very subtler thing you start, because now you are sitting back. First you gave up your family, gave up your children, gave up everything, came to this extreme. Now you are going back. For Indians, they understand that they are already too much in it. So they know that to detach yourself from your children is very important, because they are already in it. They are too much attached to their children. In the beginning they'll always tell me, my child is like this, my mother is like this, my father is like this, my brother is like this, improve my... And they'll be all booths, one better than the other. Without any discretion, bring all those relations on my head, and I feel terrible about it. Even a far-fetched relation of a relation of a relation of a relation, they'll bring it along that, you see, she is my relation. So in India it's very important that you are a relation of such and such person. And you may not have anything to do with that person, but he's a relation, so he's a relation. So, what we understand is that our relationships and our identifications have to be dropped completely. We are universal beings now. So your child is a source of joy. Every child should be the source of joy. Every child should be. Bachelors that way are better, or the ones who are not yet married. They can enjoy everybody's child nicely. But when you are not a mother and a father, if you are enjoying, what is so creditable? When you become the parents and then you enjoy other children as much as you enjoy your child, then your generosity has started. So the generosity of loving others, the generosity through compassion. Compassion doesn't mean that you should pity someone, but compassion means the sharing of personality, sharing of love personality. And that is where we miss the point. That compassion means if somebody has to be helped. Sahaja Yoga compassion is not that. Sahaja Yoga compassion is its sharing. Now the fourth thing you have to remember. What I have told you at the first is the forgiveness. First, according to me. First is forgiveness. Second is, you can call it the compassion, or the detachment, leading to compassion. So you can call it this first one as the forgiveness, detachment, and thirdly, the compassion. These are the wheels of your chariot which moves you. These are the wheels. You should remember. Now, if you go further with it, with the detachment, supposing works out in you, even you become compassionate. Even that comes. Still, what is the judging point? How do you know that you are all right? How do you measure? How do you find out that you are all right? I mean, what you call take the bearing, as they say, of the ship. How do you know? You must have peace. You should be a peaceful person. Agitation should be outside. you should be absolutely peaceful person. If you are not a peaceful person, then be sure that you are not yet there where you should have been. Now, you can say that Christ also got very angry. He took a whip in his hand and beat the people. So we can also do the same. You are not Christ. You are not an incarnation. You must know you are a realized soul. So you don't have to take a whip in your hand and hit others. You cannot. This is the mistake what the disciples of Muhammad Sahib have done, that they never thought that he was an incarnation. You see, all the incarnations have killed. Krishna has killed, Rama has killed, Devi has killed. But you are not the Devi. You are not Shri Krishna. So you don't have to kill anyone. You don't have to show the temper. So if you still have a temper, then know that your progress is very slow. You have to be a peaceful person. Imagine Sahaja yogis having a jihad. What do you say to that? Going with swords in the hand and a spear in the hand and hitting others. This point I want to make very clear, because when I am there, of course, I am going to tell you everyone. But when I am not there, I don't want you to take in your hands the swords and things and fight. What William Blake has written is for the incarnation. The incarnation says, give me my. It's not that you should say, now give me Rama's Ayudhas. You cannot use. You are not an incarnation. Because the discretion of these are effective. Yours are not. So you are not to take any weapon into your hand, or even anger. Doesn't behove as a yogi at any point, unless and until I tell you to be angry. So this is the criteria, that you have to be a peaceful person, not aggressive person. Now different people have different type of aggressiveness. For example, men don't discuss, you see, they just slap you, finished. They don't argue, they don't like to argue. At a point they'll go and they'll just hit you out and finished. But women are very good at argument and very aggressive, very aggressively argumentative. So you don't argue, is the second point. If you are argumentative, then know that you are not yet there where you have to. A peaceful person goes to a point and then argues it. If you are argumentative, then your progress is not all right.